Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this meeting of the Housing Committee. And a welcome to Tom and Mike, who've joined us today as well. I'd like to remind all attendees that this meeting is to be recorded and webcast live on the Council's YouTube channel. I've agreed to the attendance of some members remotely and would remind all remote attendees to mute their microphones when not speaking. For any members of the public watching, please note that all the public committee reports, including details of specific recommendations, are available on the Council's website. So, go to the agenda now, and I'll ask if there's any apologies for absence.
No apologies, Convener.
Thank you. Are there any declarations of interest or statements of transparency? I don't see any, thank you. Moving on to item 3, the minutes of previous meetings, both the meeting of the 30th of January and the 11th of February. Are those minutes agreed? Agreed. Thank you. And now we'll move on to item 4, which is the appointment of tenant representatives to the Housing Committee. And I'll ask our legal representative, Gary, to introduce the report.
Thank you, Convener. This is paper number 9 in the combined bundle. There are recommendations to the Chamber to approve the appointment of Mr Cameron, who's with us online today, and Mr O'Brien, who's with us in the Chamber today, as tenant representatives to this committee in a non-voting capacity. There is a third vacancy still outstanding, and that will be brought back to members once a nomination has been received. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions? No, don't see any comments.
What was that question?
Is that a question or a comment? Question. Okay, Councillor Speed.
So it was just with regards to the one remaining space that's still available and the current scheme which states that it has to be kind of housing groups. Is there any way that that can be expanded to just be a tenant, or is that not in accordance with what's required of us?
Will I ask Claire to come in, or Sarah?
Yeah, I'm happy to come in, Convener. So currently the scheme that was approved in December states that it has to be from a constituted group, so there's no provision for an individual tenant to come forward. However, I think between ourselves, legal colleagues and housing colleagues, we might do some work just to see if we can bring forward a third representative, and if that's not possible, then we'll perhaps look at widening the scheme out.
Yeah, I'd certainly be supportive of that if that were the case, because I think then it gives all our tenants who have an interest in this remit to be involved. Thank you.
Yeah, I certainly think it's good to widen it out as much as possible, and for a big geographical spread if possible as well. Comments, Councillor Speed. Councillor Bell.
I did actually have my hand up for a question, but you jumped on, so that's fine. Really pleased to welcome Mike and Tom to this committee. And I just wondered if there could be a particular effort made around a bit of gender difference in the remaining vacancy. I know there's a big increase in single women or single parents in the housing sector generally, and it would be good to have that reflected. Thanks.
Thank you. It'd certainly be nice to get a bit more of gender balance. I agree. Councillor Meehan.
I would also like to welcome Mike and Tom, maybe Mike in particular, because I've actually done some work as a councillor with Mike. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you. Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Convener, and hello everybody. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. We've never met Mr Cameron, but I would like to extend my congratulations to you, because we've never met in particular, so well done to you. And you might indulge me for a minute to especially welcome and endorse my good friend Tom O'Brien, who I've worked with for years on Community Council. They're both deserving of this, and I'm sure they'll both do us proud. And the next person that comes on will be assured of their welcome and support.
Thank you. Councillor Gregg.
Thank you, Convener. As a tenant participation spokesperson, I'd like to personally preempt the welcome, because we haven't yet agreed the recommendations, but I'm sure we will. So I'd like to preemptively say a very special thank you to both Mr Cameron and Mr O'Brien. I look forward to working with you both, and hopefully whoever our next person will be or group to join will be. And I'd also say that Councillor Whiteside and Scott and I are quite aware of the need to have a bit of a wider comparison, so whether that be with other ethnic minorities, other different people's genders, everything else, to try and make the committee as inclusive as possible and representative as possible, and that is something that together we are working to try and achieve.
Thank you very much. Any further comments? Councillor Proctor.
Thanks very much, Convener. I'd just like to kind of mirror what Councillor Gregg said and welcome Mr Cameron and Mr Connor, who I've known. He's been a great, resolute supporter of community councils when he comes from Padden and I hope that their input will be very useful to this committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Braze.
Yes, thanks, Convener. Yes, just to echo, I think, what others have said, and welcoming the participants, and to point out that tenants have to be at the centre of all we do. That's the reason why we have council houses. It's for the tenants. We don't just have council houses to sit about, and so really looking forward to this committee getting much more input from tenants, so that we can provide the service and the quality housing that you all deserve. Thanks.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands, so I'll move now to the recommendations. And we're asked to note the scheme adopted by the Council, note that 2 nominations have been received, approve the appointment of Mr Cameron and Mr O'Brien, and note that 1 vacancy remains. Are those recommendations agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much, and I would like to formally welcome both Mr O'Brien and Mr Cameron. Thank you very much for giving up your time to do this and get involved. Maybe Mr O'Brien would like to take his seat at the table, and hopefully we'll see you next time in person, Mr Cameron. Thank you both. Okay, moving on to the next item on our agenda, which is the Housing Improvement Plan and Progress Report. And I'll pass over to Claire.
Thank you. Good afternoon, elected members. This report provides a comprehensive update on the progress made in implementing the Housing Service Improvement Plan for 24-25, which was launched in April 2024 to address the long-standing challenges across the housing service. The improvement plan is structured around 3 key priority areas: customer excellence, housing quality in place, and prevention and homelessness. It aims to drive better service delivery, enhance operational efficiency, and ensure compliance with regulatory and legislative standards. The report outlines progress to date, including the implementation of a new tenant participation strategy, the launch of a customer charter, and work undertaken to meet the Scottish housing quality standards. However, it also highlights ongoing challenges, particularly in key operational areas such as void management, repairs, rent collection, and communication with tenants. A core element of the improvement plan is the ongoing review of the housing service structure. The review is intended to realign staff resources more effectively, fill identified capacity gaps, and strengthen accountability across service functions. In addition, the plan places increased emphasis on staff training, digital solutions, and performance monitoring through a robust performance management framework. The committee is invited to note the contents of the report and the service's ongoing commitment to addressing these challenges, improving tenant satisfaction, and delivering high-quality housing services across Angus communities.
Thank you very much, Claire. And you just have to read through this report to see the vast amount of work that's been undertaken and that is to be done. And while there is some progress, it's obviously a huge piece of work. So thanks to all the housing staff for the work they've done to date, and good luck with the rest of it, because, like I say, the task is absolutely huge. Can I ask if we've got any questions on the report? Councillor Devine.
Thanks, Convener. These are just for clarity, really. On page 27, you're saying that there's progress in establishing a third-party provider to assist with the administration of utilities meter management. It seems really a good idea. Could you give us a little bit more information about that? And then in the next page, we're also monitoring the CHA's use of recycling centres. Is this to do with the white vans that pick up rubbish and then they get charged? I see. Okay, so you're hoping to get an agreement there. That's fine. Thank you.
I can come in on both points. Firstly, about the energy efficiency one. So we've been working to look at moving our utilities to an independent supplier that specialises in social housing, and that's to try and improve that void period turnover where we're struggling with meters and the constant, the time it's taken housing officers to manage that process. So we're just at the final point of signing off that contract, and that's due to be implemented in April.
That's great.
The company's Energy Angels that we're looking at moving to, it's a company that specialises in working with social housing.
Thank you, Councillor Bell.
Thank you, and thanks very much for this. I fully appreciate the amount of work that has gone into this by quite a lot of people. I think it's really important, and I really welcome it. I'm thinking about reporting to this committee, and I'm sure there will be things that either come here as a routine part of the process, and also potentially Policy and Resources Committee when we need to go out to tender for various things. I wonder if I could ask for exception reporting if there's any significant slippage. I'm sure you've already had that chat with the convener, but it's just a bit of reassurance that we are cited on any potential
Okay, thanks for your patience, everybody. Hopefully we've found out that glitch. I think I've got Councillor Doran next, and then Councillor Melville.
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted. Look, this is a lot of work. I think it's really important that we're getting these updates to these committees, because it shows the scale of the work going on and the tasks that need to be undertaken within this area. I just had a specific question relating to two points in this report that relate to the management of data and GDPR, and I just wanted to seek some reassurances around those. It's mentioned on page 18 of the combined papers and page 43 of the combined papers as critical or kind of high risk issues, and just around protection of tenants' data within that mix. Really, that's what I wanted to raise. And my other question was that on some of the on some of the outputs that are being done, there are dates, and on others there aren't dates. And I think it'd be really good if we could move forward to adding dates to all of those in the future. That'd be really great. Then we can track that work going on. Thanks.
Hi, thanks for the question. So the point on page 18 in the papers relating to data integrity relates to the accuracy of reporting. So that's not about how we handle personal information. It's around how we're recording and reporting and then analysing that data. So there's a programme of data integrity checks that's now underway to ensure that the information that we're collecting and reporting is accurate and meets with the annual return of the Charter technical guidance. So that bit of work is ongoing. In terms of the GDPR, I think that's included within our digital improvements. So it's looking to implement a GDPR module within our housing management system, which ensures that the data that is within the system is deleted or isn't available to look at after a certain retention period. So that work is also ongoing.
Did you want to come back in, Heather?
Yeah, thank you. And just want to say, I think that piece of work I think is incredibly important because it's a risk area regarding handling of data. So something that I'd like to see looked at really soon. And the GDPR part of it, really good that the other part doesn't affect that bit of it, and that it's to do with the systems internally. Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Melville.
Thank you, Convener. It's page 41, and I've asked about this previously about online direct debits for rent. Obviously, I'm still exploring options for contact forms, but I was just wondering if you had any further progress updates on the launch and how imminent it might be launched.
Yeah, so testing is ongoing. There was a small glitch when we first kind of launched it within the test site, so there had to be some fixes done. It was quite a technical glitch that I won't attempt to explain, but we are making progress, so hoping to get that launched soon, hopefully within the next month.
Thanks, Lindsay. Any further questions, Councillor Speaker?
Yep, thank you. In Appendix 1, refusal rates remain high and in 1 month at 52.68% and are generally above 40%. Rent loss continues to rise from 2.43% to 2.89% and relet times continue to increase from 58.26 to 70 days. So my question is, can the high refusal rate be explained given that applicants are bidding for properties and we were advised that choice-based lettings would improve our refusal rate? And is the choice-based letting system a factor in the time taken to relet properties, as we are losing 7 to 8 days on each advert placed? And I guess finally my question would be, is it a time for a review of the choice-based letting system? And has choice-based letting come to the end of the road?
Okay, I'll try and answer those. In terms of your first question about refusal reasons, we are actually meeting monthly now as a management team at looking at all our performance, and that was one thing that came out of our last performance meeting. So we're going to be able to do a bigger, deeper dive into that information to look and see why properties are being refused, as you say, because it's choice-based letting. Why are people making that refusal? I don't think it's linked to our void rent loss. We've actually seen a significant reduction in our voids since January this year. We've had a reduction across all areas of about 10%. And we are now also, I chair a meeting every week to look at voids and our void rent loss and our repairs work. We have done a lot of extensive work around building in void pathways into some of the information so that we can actually really get to the nitty-gritty of tracking a void as to where in the process is it breaking down. At the moment, we have got some issues with more of our complex voids around that are pulling our figures down around ones that are waiting for insurance, fire damaged properties, etc. And that seems to be having a significant issue on our void rent loss actually at the moment. What was your third question? Again, sorry. Choice-based lettings.
Yeah, I mean, I guess ultimately, is there it was really, is there a correlation between some of the decline in our ability to relet, the time it takes to relet? Is there a correlation between that and the choice-based letting system, and is it time to review that?
We would have to do a bit more analysis on that. My personal feeling is no, because actually the number of bids that attracts to each property every time that we advertise, we don't get any properties where we have very little bids against. And there, whereas before when we were going out and we were doing it off the waiting list, we could go out 15, 16 times because that person wasn't interested in that property at all. So. But it's something that we could have a look at some of that data when we're looking at the refusals data. I don't know if you want to come in, Lindsay.
Yeah, so the refusal, the rate of refusals has reduced recently, and what we found is there's a link between the quality of adverts and refusals. So the higher quality adverts, the better acceptance rates. So that is the link that we have found. So as our advert quality is improved, our refusals have reduced quite significantly. So we're continuing to review the information that's shared with the property adverts to ensure that it matches the property's specification. That tends to be a link. The more we are actually using direct matches and the more that we're using auto bid is seeing an increase in refusals too. So there isn't a link with the actual advertising and choice aspect. It's the matching and the increase in match applicants and the increase in auto bids that is increasing refusals as well. So I would say that choice-based lettings has overall positive impact, but when we're looking to increase those direct matches or the adverts aren't good quality, then we do see an increase in refusals.
Thanks. Councillor Proctor.
Thank you, Convener, and thank you very much for that information, that update on voids, because I think all local elected members would agree with me, probably regarding housing. Voids is probably the majority that we get questions on. And I today, just before I come to this meeting, received an email from a constituent whose mother's disabled, and there was a perfectly good house, ground level, quite close to where they lived, and it sat empty for 10 months. Now, there's probably a reason for that, but that's something that's difficult for the general public to understand. So perhaps in the meeting finished, I can come and I'll show you the email, and then we can maybe do something about it. So thank you very much.
Okay, I think that was more of a comment than a question. So we're maybe on to comments now. Does anybody have any further comments? Councillor Speed.
Yep, thank you. Colleagues, we were advised in 2017 that choice-based letting would improve demand for low demand stock, reduce refusal rates and improve applicant satisfaction. We were also advised that as a result of the consumer-led society that we now live in, allocation of social housing has become increasingly choice-led with the growing adoption of choice-based letting by social landlords. However, a Housing Options Scotland report in March 2022 shows that Angus Council is one of only 5 local authorities now to be using choice-based letting to let properties. We now have a high refusal rate and our void rent loss is increasing along with the number of days to re-let a property. 7 days are added on to each void property for advertising. And so if we have 400 properties in a year, say, that adds 4,000 days of void rent loss and increases the number of days to relet by the same. So I guess my kind of comment and my kind of final words is, could we simply not say 4,000 days of void rent and reduce the number of days to relet and improve our performance by simply reviewing choice-based letting and considering reverting back to direct lets, where applicants were still able to have locational preferences and choice around where they wanted to move to, but this would also help speed up lets to those most in need whilst making best use of our stock. So I'd certainly strongly consider that we review choice-based letting. Thank you, Convener.
Thanks for your comments, Councillor Speed. I think some of the points were probably addressed by Lindsay in her last answer, but I don't know whether you want to come back in.
Yeah, I don't think there's really anything else to add to what I'd responded previously. We have done a lot of work in terms of the voids and looking at where the bottlenecks and the inefficiencies sit within the process. There are the kind of key issues are utilities. It's around the kind of complex repairs that are required and some contractor challenges. So that tends to be where the kind of bottlenecks exist, not within the actual choice-based lettings process. But however, we'll continue to monitor that and we'll continue to review kind of the effectiveness of choice-based lettings as we monitor kind of the performance and allocations and application performance.
Thank you. Councillor Brace.
Yes, thanks, Convener, and I get entirely what Councillor Speed's getting at here and her concerns about choice-based letting. I would argue strongly, though, that when we read these papers and we see the amount of work that needs to be done that's already in progress, I would argue strongly that choice-based letting in Angus cannot work to its full potential and at its best when there's so many other areas surrounding it that just aren't working the way they should be at the moment. Voids, for example, we've got all these bottlenecks in there. Without sorting them, you're not really going to make a big impression on voids, even if you do go away from choice-based letting. So I would really argue strongly that we push on with our housing improvement plan, and yes, in due course, when we've got a lot of other stuff sorted out, we will be in a better position to be able to judge whether choice-based letting is still appropriate in Angus or whether we really need to be looking somewhere else. I would also add, just, really great to hear that we're making progress on meter debt. This is a huge frustration for local authorities all across Scotland. I would just like to say how really disgusted I am that the energy companies have been so little help in dealing with this problem. They're making fortunes of money. They have the resource, financial resource, to have been able to give us so much more help than they have. And now we're having to get help from an outside agency. In any reasonable society, these big businesses would be doing their bit, and we wouldn't have to be forking out tenants' money, etc., to try and get progress on meter debt. So good that it's being tackled, absolutely disgraceful that it's been allowed to go on like this. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any further comments? No, well, we'll move to the recommendations, and the recommendations ask us to note the contents and the commitments that are detailed in the report, the 6 strong commitments, which I think are very, they get right down to the root of the problem. I don't think I'll read them out in full. You've all got them in front of you. Do we agree to note?
Just before we move on, is it possible to have a bit more of a commitment there around an actual review of choice-based letting? And I know that there's been some assurances around an ongoing kind of looking at the performance and choice, but can there be something stronger within the improvement plan to actually review where we involve tenants and consult?
Thanks, Kelly.
Hi, I'm just going to come in there. So what we would really hope from the housing improvement plan is that it's continuous improvement and that the evaluation, as you've seen, isn't just happening once a year. Claire's already described monthly meetings. And the real money and improvement is in using that information that you're gathering or speaking about every month and then making the big decisions, Lois, about is that making this not work So how, like Councillor Brace suggested, if we fix this, will this work better? Or do you get to a point where you think it doesn't matter what we do here, we can't fix that? So I would ask that you give them a bit of time. It's not something that's going to become apparent overnight. It is a continuous process, if that's okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I will keep a close eye. Thanks.
Thank you. Do we agree to note the contents of the report and the commitment? Thank you very much. We had the opportunity to discuss and question a briefing in January this year, and I will pass back to Claire to introduce this report.
Thank you. So this report provides an update to members on the decision taken at Angus Council Committee on the 7th of November 2024 to defer approval of the revised Common Allocation Policy to allow further consideration of specific elements. In particular, members requested a review of the proposed priority bandings for applicants with a medical need to ensure they retain gold status, and the removal of the proposed one-year suspension period for abandonment, and retaining instead the existing 6-month suspension period currently set out in the policy. The report outlines the further amendments that have been made in response to that decision, along with the outcomes of additional consultation carried out with applicants. In addition to the specific changes requested by members, the opportunity has also been taken to implement a range of broader policy improvements. These include shared childcare arrangements, enhanced consideration of applicants with equal care responsibilities and regular contact, sheltered housing criteria, revised eligibility criteria to include age, disability and the suitability of the living environment, applicant matching, additional clarification on eligibility requirements to support more effective allocations.
Sorry. Oh no, it's okay. We're back again.
Restriction criteria, improved clarity in the wording regarding restrictions applied to certain property types, and home visits, updated guidance on tenancy inspections for current tenants. These enhancements are intended to promote fairness, transparency and consistency in the allocation process, while ensuring the policy remains responsive to the diverse needs of applicants, aligned with Angus Council's strategic housing objectives. The revised Common Allocation Policy, reflecting these changes and broader improvements, is now presented for formal approval by Housing Committee.
Thanks, Claire. Are there any questions? No questions. Any comments? Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Convener. And I'm away at the end, really, on page 83, and this is something that has been a concern of mine, and probably most people in this room that represent constituents. But I have to say that I have a surgery at our local Legion here. Now, anybody that goes in there will realise the demographic is older men and women. And it's a great arena for me to go in and learn such a lot from them. And a lot of the times I was getting things like they would be worrying about how they were going to cope with having to bid or for any changes that they wanted to make. And there was real fear. And my answer was either the same, we got on to the housing team, etc. And I have to say, I'm even reading this here, what you do and what you intend to do and everything. But I got it in the real. I got it. Yes, Linda, that's happening. That young wife is coming to see me in the morning, or that young man was on the phone. And that's really wonderful to hear. It sounds very homespun and twee. Well, I'm just trying to bring it to its least common denominator, where it needs to be. Because that's people frightened. They haven't got the ability to be able to go online, etc. Some of them struggle to see forms if they're no fair to them. So to endorse this is an understatement for me, because I'm very honest, I'd be telling you. But in there, in that arena, I'm getting that quite a lot of the success. So you deserve to know that, because that's right at the coalface. And I hope I've explained it properly.
Thanks, Councillor Clark. And it is sometimes the case that even if people have got the ability to go online, they don't actually have a connection depending on where they live in some of the rural areas. So it is an important point. I've got Councillor Gregg and then Councillor Doran.
Thank you, Convener. I believe actually Councillor Doran was before me, if you're happy to take her first.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Doran.
Thank you. I was just a comment to say thank you for the revisions that have been made to this, because I was one of the people that had raised that and asked. And I think the revisions make the parts that had been requested change clearer and more understandable. And I know it was a difficult thing to do that, but I just wanted to say thank you, and I think it strengthens what's in there and in this now. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Gregg.
Thank you, Convener. It's a bit similar to as Councillor Dorn has said there. There's been a lot of work has gone into this. It started with the Communities Committee. It was then referred to the full Council, where, again, the whole of the Council had the opportunity to go through it. There's a tremendous work has gone in from officers and also from residents as well, who inputted as well as the various, well, starting with the Communities Committee and then again with the Housing Committee. So with that, I would really hope that everyone would recognise that work and agree with us to approve this revised common allocation policy as per the recommendations when it comes. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Proctor.
Thank you very much, Convener. I endorse what Councillor Clark said about the people, the elderly folk in our committee. The other concern I have is that veterans, from all services of the armed forces, when they're leaving the armed forces, that's when they're at their most vulnerable. Housing is always a big problem. Is this very, very useful information? Could we make sure that that gets communicated to veterans? Because I do think if I was coming to the armed forces and seeing this, it would be of a great help to me.
That's no problem.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Proctor. Any further comments? Councillor Speed.
Yep, thank you. Although I do have my concerns for choice-based letting in that system, I am pleased that this policy has been amended, and I know that it did take some time to go away and engage with tenants and partners, but I am pleased and reassured, especially with the Bandon review and the assurances given that no existing applications will be downgraded when migrated to the revised policy. I think this is definitely a good thing for the well-being of applicants, and the measures and protections put in place for ground floor and adapted property. So I do thank you for that. And I also welcome the addition of the looking at our housing for elderly residents, and I think that's a further bit of work that's gone on, and the measures hopefully that are being put in place there will help ensure that we have residents, older people living in safe accommodation that doesn't have the issues that we are currently seeing. So thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? I don't see any, so we'll move to recommendations, and we're asked to note the previous reports, the decision not to approve the previous report and ask for revisions, and we're asked to approve the revised policy as detailed in Appendix 3 and note the consultation carried out. Are those agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much. Before we bring the meeting to a close, I'd just like to give some thanks to Kevin Loveston, who's due to retire, and he's been a support to the committee and the Communities Committee for some time. And also welcome Rory, who's going to take over in that role. So all the best for your retirement, Kevin, and good luck.
Can we start the live stream, please?